I welcome if I did a show analyze and solve PR kerfuffles from a world not beyond. I'm your host, Lexi, and joining me as always is Kid Native Bloody Elbow and the Let It Roll podcast. And EUGENE'S Robinson from Aussie.com and author of Fight Everything You Ever Want to Know About Ass Kicking, but we're afraid you get your ass kicked for asking collectively. And Machen Pancholis. I almost said Muncholis.
Hey, Muncholis is a different show, man. It's a sexy show that we do. So sorry.
Oh, you guys don't know about this other show?
It's
special level of Patreon.
Kind of a how-to thing where you watch it and cry. You just did no.
He's like, Muncholis! All right, so Eugene.
Yes, sir.
You're the UFC. Speaking of muncholing.
Yeah, man.
Bloomberg blasted your low ratings. Aging fan base and departing stars, laughing in public view.
Mm-hmm.
How do you prevent this negative analysis from negatively impacting your TV negotiations?
Well, this is like the scene in The Godfather where they're sitting around and, it's not personal here. It's business. As I was driving on my way here from work and almost running down old people with grocery bags, I got a text from somebody who goes, nah, man, don't you see? It's a riddle. It's a mystery wrapped inside of an enigma. Can't you see what's happening? I mean, there's blood in the water, and the blood in the water is coming from the bald one and the UFC. The UFC says, I'll tell you what, give us $400 million. And they're like, hey, try again. Colin Quinn in his New York stories, the stand-up thing he does, he talks about the Dutch coming to Manhattan. So, the Dutch show up. It's a pretty serious deal. It's not like the Dutch of today with weed and clogs. It's like the Dutch East India Trading Company. They show up with a fucking army. So the Dutch say to the Lenape Indians who, occupied Manhattan before, we'll give you $25 for it. And the Indians are like, hey, man, it's not for sale. And then they go, great. Okay. How about 24? And I just told you it's not for sale. 23. And then, of course, he decided to take it because, going like that, it's not going to get any better. You might as well settle for 23. That's where the UFC is right now. If I'm the UFC, I should have an understanding of that's where I am right now. I'm not getting 400 mil. My dream would be, okay, well, I'll take 200 mil. At this point now, I'm going to have to say that those stories, I agree with the D-Man is the one who was tweeting me. I agree with his take that this could be what do they call them, a false flag. I mean, this is an opposition story designed to make it harder for them to fucking negotiate. And keep in mind, it's like when Kurt Cobain killed himself or was murdered. If a guy who is suicidal gets murdered, nobody really gives a fuck, right? I mean, it's just the timing is wrong. You're fired. I quit. You quit. I'm fired. You quit. I fired. You quit. You're fired. They don't care. So I'm going to say that the UFC has created a bed that now they have to sleep in uncomfortably. What do I do if I'm the UFC? At this point now, just like the Lenape Indians on the Manhattan Island, you should settle. Whatever they're willing to give, fucking take. Because the days of you being worth $400 million are long gone.
Well, one take on that story that Native folks talk about is the group that actually received the beads was a different tribe, not from the area. Right. Like, how much do you want? Yeah, we'll take it. Come on, yeah. And then they roll out. The other group comes in and they're like, okay, hey, no, that's not us. It's like Indian, whatever.
Well, that's what he said. He says the Lenape Indians said they were the first ones there. He goes, we have to take their word for it. We don't know. They could have killed the people who were there first. How do we know? So,
man.
But yeah, so the UFC is fucked. But they're fucked in a way that happens when you fuck yourself. He's fighting little skirmishes, and the war is lost. You're arguing with Nate Diaz over what, a mill here and a mill there. Oh, well, I'm glad you did that. That was a worthwhile. I'm talking about the bald one. That was a worthwhile use of your time, man. You really saved you really saved the mill while squandering 400 mil. Come on, stop it. At this point now, it's a buyer's market, What
about you, Nate?
Well, I think that there's sort of two parallel tracks that they need to do. One is they need to be talking up all the interests that they have from various entities.
Like who?
In addition to Fox. Well, supposedly NBC's interested.
Oh,
supposedly Amazon's interested.
Oh, really?
Bidding war, baby. It's a bidding war. I mean, Dana doesn't have enough time in the day to deal with all the executives who want to talk to him and talk him up. And so, you got to hype that this is a product that is in demand. And then you got to improve the fucking product, man. I mean, sign those Diaz brothers. Book some fights that people give a shit about. I think that the 226 with the double title fights, the triple cross divisional title fights, that's a good step, sort of, but it's like an eating your seed corn kind of thing where you're not planning for the future. You're not building anything. You're just burning up divisions willy-nilly. In one event, you're burning up 6 divisions. So I think they need to focus. They need to focus on building some fighters. And like the way they treat even the fighters that they're supposedly pampering, like Sage Northcutt.
Northbutt? What?
Northbutt. They book him in a fight. And I mean, they give him a gift decision, which isn't necessarily their fault or whatever. The refs are out of their control, but it sure seemed fishy to me. But why are they booking him in fights like this that he didn't learn anything? I mean, they gave him a stiff, and he can't even beat the stiff. I mean, you got to, if you're going to
No. Yeah, that stiff was robbed, okay?
The stiff was robbed, but the stiff was doing lay and pray hard. I mean, like, the guy wasn't doing jack, And so
he was no Francis Carmont. He was a little more active than that.
Oh, man.
A smidge. Did you see Carmont got cut by Bellator, by the way? So happy days are here.
You mean they had to wake him up?
Yeah, hey, Francis. You can't sleep in the bus station. Yeah, so
not in the octagon. Get out. Go sleep somewhere else. Yeah.
So they got to build buzz. They got to build buzz in the business, but they got to build buzz on the fight side and make their product more appealing. And you got to groom some fighters and build them the way boxing does, where they take them through the steps, like level them up like it's Dungeons and Dragons. They'll just be throwing them in the deep end. And if I don't know, it's impossible because
Nate's right. I mean, all we got to do is design the special rocket, and then we could win this war. That's what Hitler said.
Exactly. Invent jet planes, boys. Just give me some jet engines, and there they were in the hangars, waiting.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the Joy Division line, made a fatal mistake. This is the fatal mistake because the guy who's in charge of all this, you're asking him to do something that he absolutely, completely will not ever do. You're asking him to be not him, and that's not going to work. He's not going to be not him. He's going to be him. It's like, how do we get in this hole? Well, I put my hand on that branch there. This one? Yeah. And then I put my hand on the other branch. You mean this one? Yeah. And then I jumped up and down, and then he end up in the hole. 100 times he fails, 100 times the same way. Forget it. He was
really weird too in terms of making easy fights, because if you look at what happened to Shevchenko and like her can crushing moment, right? Like if you want to follow boxing's lead, you line up the cans and you build up records that way, and so when you finally cash in your chips, you have some kind of question in place, but you can't do that as successfully in mixed martial arts.
I mean, this is the thing is now everybody look, I was arrested for something. You know what I was arrested for back in 1981? Right. But I'm not telling the whole story. Do you know what the actual charge was?
Lying to a police officer.
False information to a police officer. You know why that's one of the worst charges you can fucking get? Because anything
around.
It's still off my record now. But the thing is, once people see that, they don't believe a fucking thing you say, right? So it's like you have trustworthy murderers, but if the guy is on record as being a fucking liar, you don't trust him. So you got. I mean, at this point now, all the gamesmanship and all the clever shit, clever by half shit, and all of the moves and the jockeying and the negotiating and him thinking that he's fucking Donald Trump, the failed businessman. If it doesn't work. The only way to dig himself out of the hole, and by extension, the UFC out of the hole, is just to say, is to have a real stunning moment of clarity and embrace honesty. Like, Stop bullshitting people. Stop playing fucking games. Say, you know what? We're in trouble. Because that's what we all think, and that's what we all feel. And I say we, I mean us and the fighters. So don't tell, you would actually get points for telling us what we already know. That we're in trouble. We got to dig down deep. I'm, going to try to build this thing back up. I'm going to make some moves, get Johnny Joni back in. I'm going to give ownership stake to Conor McGregor. I'm going to give the Diaz brothers kind of what they need, raises across the board.
No imported snow during the holidays.
Yeah, and I'll increase my attendance at shows, and they called it, what do they call it? Dana White's the contenders. Man is drunk with a certain type of fucking celebrity power. It's like Ellie Nessler. She murdered a guy in court and had the country's sympathy. And that country's sympathy turned into a burst of fame that ruined her, sent her spiraling down to meth addiction and all kinds of subpar behavior that got her arrested again. And this time people weren't so fucking forgiving. The thing is, the truth will actually set you free. America loves contrition, honest fucking contrition. We love it, but anything else is not going to fucking fly.
It's less civilized. Well, you know what, though? I think that in terms of honest contrition, spiraling down, burning a flame, potential meth addiction, sets us up for our next question. Yeah. Nate, you're the UFC. If a Floyd Mayweather versus CM Punk fight is good for your finances, how do you make it so?
Man, you keep talking about it for one thing, or letting other people talk about it. Joe Rogan talking about it is great. Floyd Mayweather Sr. talking about it is great. Conor McGregor talking about it is great. I don't know that you want Dana White talking about it too much, but I mean, it's such the big hurdle with this one is, in addition to getting Mayweather to take the fight and getting Punk to take the fight, is you got to figure out the weight class thing, because Punk is a welterweight, Mayweather is a featherweight, maybe a lightweight if he bloats up. So you got to get Punk to cut, and Punk's not carrying around a lot of extra. So, it seems to me like you could make them fight at lightweight, maybe, if you can get a commission to take that fight. And since they're both, I mean, one dude's 0-1 in MMA and one dude's 0-0 with a great boxing resume, you might be able to get a commission, particularly a reasonable commission that you can be reasoned with. Make that happen, but talk it up. Get people talking about it. The odds makers coming out and putting odds on it last week. That was great. I mean, this is ridiculous nonsense. Got to get that caveat out there. Everybody knows this is ridiculous nonsense. This is a complete garbage fight, but what else are you going to do with CM Punk? I mean, the guy, they threw him in with Mickey Gall, that they searched around for a guy that couldn't fight or had limited fighting ability, and he smokes him. And Punk hasn't gotten any younger since then, and I doubt he's gotten any better. Now, some people are like, oh, Punk's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, blah, blah. He'll take Floyd down. I'm not feeling it, man. I mean, if Floyd's gifted athletically, he's 40, so he's not going to be learning things too quick, but he's not going to have to work too long on his takedown defense. Maurice Smith did that shit back in the day, worked on his takedown defense and his guard around the same age as Floyd Mayweather. I think Mayweather can improve. And he can light Punk up on the feet. So, I don't know. Throw some money around, keep the buzz talking. It makes much more sense than throwing Floyd in with McGregor, because what kind of commission is going to improve that? Plus, you get 2 fights, or you could blow the Mayweather-McGregor fight if Punk actually beats him, but that just seems highly unlikely to me. I don't know. That's my advice to the UFC.
What about you, Eugene?
Oh, man. You ever read De Sturmer? De Sturmer? You ever read that? Julius Streicher's heavily anti-Semitic propaganda arm of the Nazi Party, their newspaper. And it was filled with comics, measured only in quality and greatness by the ones that you see on Tom Metzger's White Aryan Resistance League, of which I sent those around periodically. Like, they had this one about the average Negro, and he's got a big boom box, and he's got a gun, and his pants are open, and he's got like needles sticking out of his arm, and he's like little cartoon swirly things in his eyes, and the music coming out of the boom box is the funky party, the funky party. He's like saying, where the white women at, right? The comics, to me, okay, the Nazis are not so funny because people died above behind it. Metzger's thing is kind of amusing to me, and it actually smoked out a personal connection to. I got an email from Patricia Arquette. I was like, man, I said I should send out more Metzger stuff because I said on my Instagram that it was actually sent out by Jeff Sessions. She wrote me and said, "Is that the case?" I was like, maybe. Hey, what are you doing? You want to hang out? You know, I mean, in a friendly way because I'm a married man, you know. But anyway, my point is that there's this cartoon where clearly a Jewish guy goes up to a German fellow who's sitting on a bench and goes, do you mind if I sit on this bench with you? And the German guy goes, oh, certainly, sit down. And the Jewish guy sits down on the bench, and because it's the Sturmer, the next thing he does is, bumps the German guy off onto the ground so he could, spread out, and he's got his wife and his kids on the bench. I mean, it's the same kind of agitprop pushed by the Donald in terms of anchor babies and dreamers and DACA and all that shit. My point is here that the worst thing that could have ever happened, okay, he had boxing advisors. I don't know if you guys remember going back, the entry, they used to have fighters enter on ramps, and they said the boxing analyst, consultants they hired said, no, don't do this. It makes it too much like fake wrestling. We want to be real. Nothing was said power like when Mike Tyson just came walking down the vomitorium, which is what they call the entry from walk into the cage. So the UFC got rid of the platforms. I mean, Bellator has them walking on the floor. And so you take all this advice from boxing, and that's like, let's get like boxing, get a foot on the bench, get a leg on the bench, get an ass cheek on the bench, get the other ass cheek on the bench. And now at best, what MMA is looking for is that we could at least be as good / as bad as boxing. That's it. That's the ceiling. Letting that guy in was fucking ruination, absolute ruination. And like Nate said, it proved nothing. It didn't advance the canon for either fucking sport, outside of the fact that it got temporarily more eyes looking at boxing and people sort of excited about boxing. I mean, that was a fixed like quantity boxing. Those people were never going to fucking leave. They were just, any slop you fed them, they're going to be happy. They like boxing. It's a macho thing. They feel uncomfortable with the wrestling of MMA, the profusion of white cats. They don't understand with the sport, whatever reason. But giving Conor McGee 130 mil, letting him in the house, this shit is not going to stop. Floyd's at home bored. His father's at home bored for money. They got no other boxing. They're bored with boxing. And the vig on MMA, these matches are great, and the amount of work they have to do is insignificant. And what is it? And more importantly, what do you think it does to the minds of the guys who are fighting? What would it do to you if you're one of the 375 guys on the roster going, what the fuck I'm going to go back and get my master's because this is bullshit. It's bullshit. This is no way to fucking make a living. Waiting for CM Punk to make a decision, or waiting for the Baldwin to make a decision about CM Punk, and Mayweather, who's already got more money than fucking God, is going to come and play in our backyard to do what? To discombobulate the fucking sport? Where's the fighter development? Where's the love for the fights? Drop the fucking Reebok thing. Get that shit out of here. It's stinking up the joint. Get sponsors back in, because when sponsors were there, you had brand ambassadors all over the place. Reebok is not up in the brand. They don't give a shit about it. Give them back their money. You'd be better off giving back their money at this point. It's dire. It's dire. And Mayweather, it's bread and circuses as far as I'm concerned, and it's not going to help the sport.
Man, one thing that could help the sport is Kid Nate's heel turn.
Well, I've been following the lawsuit, the fighters, the class action lawsuit. It's not a class action lawsuit yet. It's an attempted class action lawsuit. It has to be certified later on. But a big document dump came out, and John Nash covered it on Bloody Elbow. And the thing that out of all the garbage and heinousness in that thing, because I think there's a pretty strong case that the UFC misused market power, formed a monopsony, if not a monopoly, but became the only buyer's market for fighters, and use that leverage to take advantage of fighters. But out of all the garbage in there, the one thing that really stuck out was the time Lorenzo Fertitta went on TV and somebody asked him, how does your payment to the fighters compare with other leagues? Like the NBA pays, 47% of their money to the athletes. How's the UFC do? Oh, we're very comparable with that. It's less than 15%. 15% is not 47%. It's fucking lying scumbags. And they burned the sport to the ground. They busted it out like the Sopranos at the sporting goods store. And just that one little fib there just really made the eyes roll back in my head. I mean, all the shit that the sport is saddled with right now, the Reebok deal, the Fox deal, all this stuff was stuff locked in to make Lorenzo and Frank Jr. money. And it's fucked the sport. It's put shackles on the UFC, and it's just it's so fucking fucked. It's like there was an article I was reading about Barnes and Noble, which laid off masses of people recently and saved $40 million with these layoffs. And these are layoffs of like the key buyers at the stores, like all the key veteran personnel at all these stores. And it's not like bookstores don't just run themselves. You actually need expertise to run a retail outlet. Meanwhile, 2 CEOs in the last 2 years, both of whom have been with the company for less than a year, jacked the company for $115 million between them. So they lay off, they gut the company to save $40 million. And meanwhile, these two assholes who just strolled in, jacked the company for $115 million. It's like, that is the shit that's going on everywhere. The UFC is a terrible example of it. And here we are, fucked.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty fucking impressive, Johns. He can't pick fighters for shit, but that was a pretty good fucking piece. I was impressed. I've been meaning to let him know I thought it was a great piece all day, but I've been too busy.
Busy with the Lost Battalion.
Yeah. How do you like that? I was gonna do something nice for somebody else, but I was too busy doing stuff for me, so I didn't get a chance. Well. Lost Battalion. Here. Let me show you. Let me show you the kind of stuff I get from Fight Night, and this just has been cracking me up. The guy was too afraid to put this out, so he just said it to me, and of course I showed everybody. But I don't know if you can see that. That says that's the captain, Colonel Kurtz of the Lost Battalion, Chris Weidman, with the legend. I don't know if you can read it. It says
negligent wardrobing.
And he got it like I got it. Like I'm sitting there looking like, what the, this is a poker tell where if you can, like, I knew a woman who was super adept at reading these kind of poker tells to set her sights on which men to swoop on. She would look at him and go, this man's wife doesn't love him because she let him leave the house that way. In actual fact, the wife probably just thinking that if he looks like a slob, maybe, fewer women will be attracted. It's the exact opposite. You send signal intent that you don't care about this man because you let him leave with a fucked up tie like that. It's not like he was wearing fight togs before. He wasn't fighting. But we can't have a Lost Battalion where every week Chris Weidman's in the Lost Battalion because it's not like he's getting out. It's like saying McDonald's got fries. McDonald's, it's the tautology. He's always in the Lost Battalion. So talking about him being in the Lost Battalion is pointless. But I'm gonna have to say, and it really hurts me to say this because I've tried to maintain a distinction between the man and the process. And I'm talking about none other than Mr. Commercial, the golden boy himself, Mr. Sage Northbutt. How do you say he's Lost Battalion? He is apex level Lost Battalion because he hasn't figured out that he's going nowhere. He's going nowhere. He's fighting Gowdy. Who? Gowdy. Who? Gowdy. He's going nowhere. And I mean, we've seen them cool on people before. We've seen this two-step where they're like, oh, this guy is the shit, and this is the shit, and then just things don't work out, and the guy is not the shit, and the guy hasn't been told and hasn't figured it out. Hasn't been able to read. He's 21, hasn't been able to read the tea leaves. He's going fucking nowhere. Who's he going to fight? Given what you're paying him, who's he gonna fight? You think you can squeeze more money out of that tomato? Huh? No, you can't. He's doing a Metro PCS commercial, and what else? What the guy's got no charisma. This is no Conor McNuggets. This is not, that Golly G Willikers thing that he pulls off, which is maybe age appropriate for a Texas man of 21. That's fine. That's not going to get you movie roles. That's not going to get you TV shows. That's not going to get you TV commercials beyond Metro PCS, which has some sort of deal with the UFC. They put in Kane and they put in Ronda. They've got the Demetrius, Mighty Johnson. I mean, so it's a package deal of which he probably sees very little of the actual cash. It's like that guy is done. And I don't know. I don't know what would have to happen to get him better. It's not like he's excited. I mean, he's doing the flashy spinning kicks, but where you learn those, you don't actually kick somebody. So he's doing them, but I haven't seen him connect. It's not like he's got a highlight reel that's impressive. You can't have a highlight reel of just flips. No, just flips. So he's there, and it's and he's not.
I mean, is it my imagination, or does it seem like the kid's actually devolving? Like he's less confident. He's not trusting his strikes. He's turned into a half-assed MMA fighter, whereas before he was a sort of promising striker. And
well, the thing is, man, Tyson said it best: success breeds confidence. Confidence breeds success. Some of these guys, we all know it's not a game of skills and talents. It's a head trip, man. It's a skull game. This guy faced with a little adversity, he's like, whoa, what the fuck? What do I do? I mean, I've been lifting weights since I was 9. And I went through that thing. I hurt my back really badly, like my second year of college, playing rugby. I just stopped. I go, fuck it, I'm done. Of course, it took me 2 years to get back, but I had to have that moment in the wilderness, where I was like redefining myself as something other than a bodybuilder. I was a guy who lifted weights. In other words, my head had to get stronger. These kids don't have a form by which their heads can get stronger. They can't go fuck off and then come back. Maybe they could do like that cat, what's his name, who went to the mountain in the Andes, D'Souza, right? Remember that cat? And he was like, fuck it, I'm done with this MMA thing. I'll see you later. And was living in a cave in the Andes, and people would actually make a pilgrimage to see and train with him. It wasn't, say a cave, you think if it's a dusty, musty thing. It was not a bad looking cave, but he put a mat out. But it was clearly a fucking cave. He put a mat out, and people were,
as far as caves go,
ruling with it. He just had to clear his head. And at that point, if he comes back, doesn't come back, doesn't fucking matter. And I mean, these guys stay and they get sukajued, man. And they're not sukajuing North, but the reality of it is, they can't throw him guys who are less adept. I mean, how is that going to happen? So the fact that his father's probably feeding him stuff and the golden boy shit, is it better to tell the golden boy that the golden boy is not really a golden boy and it's just hype? Is that better? Does that build a stronger fighter in the head? Or do you let the guy discover it the hard way and risk ruination? Again, second time use that word this show, but it's apropos. I mean, there are other people on the card. I like Thiago Alves too much to say that's where he is, and nobody would argue. And more importantly, not even he would argue. He's not thinking about challenging for any belt. He's not getting any younger. Trinaldo, who is like a Dominican Republic, the guy's probably about 62. I like that he's telling people he's 32 and he looks good for his age. Well, 40, however old he is. I mean, does it make sense? Is it kind for me to put them there? Nah, they don't have, There's no need for that. Donald Cerrone is also Lost Battalion. That's the person that I was waiting, and he beats this cat Yancey. I didn't think he'd beat Yancey, but I didn't realize there was a height difference between them. I didn't think he beat Yancey, but he did beat Yancey, and I was waiting. And then it didn't take more than a few hours before he was talking crazy, like I'm the belt, the champion, the winningest fighter. And I could see it was like he was buoyed by people. But the reality of it was, man, Donald Cerrone's not going anywhere either.
Damn. Thanks for joining us. Follow us on Twitter at EUGENE'S Robinson, Lexi Alder, Kid Nate. Facebook at MMA Pincholes. Please give a thumbs up, Eugene.
Da-da-da-da! And at patreon.com/The Stomper, the show Stomper.
Leave comments on YouTube. Subscribe to MMANation.com, YouTube, MMA Nation on iTunes. Visit Bloody Elbow. Buy Seven Secret Source Inspiration. Buy Oxbow's Thin Back Duke, wherever fine music is sold. Listen to the Let It Roll podcast. And immediately following this show, Eugene, what do you need to do?
Right below, you click on the link to If the Shoes Fit, and we'll do this same thing for life outside of MMA. But the link is right below. So we'll all log out, and then you click that link, and within 3 minutes, we'll be back.
That's right. We're going to be giving PR advice for pissed Parkland students and marginalized New York Times writers. We'll be back next week in another song if I did it, and we don't know what we're going to be talking about yet because the PR mistakes have yet to be made.